Welcome to Event Explorer, the podcast that dives deep into the heart of festivals, events, and the people who make them happen. I'm your host, Daniel Roth. Today, we are doing something a little different. I started Event Explorer to better understand how great events come together and how event leaders find their calling. And one of the most common questions I get from listeners is, how do I break into this industry? Well, this episode may be an answer. Today, we're joined by Dr. Tim Otteman of Central Michigan University. Tim has helped shape one of the few accredited event education programs in the country, preparing future leaders with tools, training, and real-world experience to shape the future of this industry. We'll talk about education, internships, hands-on learning, and the bridge between academia and the real world of events. If you care about building better events and better event professionals, this one's for you. And as always, if you enjoy this episode, make sure to follow the podcast, share it with a friend, and drop us a rating. It helps more than you know. All right, let's talk to Tim. Across the globe, passionate people unite to celebrate culture, creativity, and connection with festivals and events, and often it all starts in the classroom. Today, we are joined by someone who spent over 3 decades shaping not only events, but the people who lead them. Dr. Tim Otteman is a professor, program chair, and now foundation board member. From the Special Olympics to Gus Macker to building one of the only accredited event education programs in the U.S., he's lived every side of the industry, and it's great to have the opportunity to talk to him about the current state of the industry and what's coming next and all the great people behind it. So Tim, thank you for joining us. Welcome to Event Explorer.
Well, geez, thanks for having me this morning.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure. Thanks for joining. I get a lot of questions, particularly from younger people about how do I get into this industry? And I don't always have a clear answer until now. Looking for an answer, I found the Central Michigan program, and it is, like I said, one of the only programs that's actually accredited and focused towards event management. Were you one of the founders of this, or how did this program get started?
Yeah, it's a great question. And again, academic preparation, I think, is critical to the success of our industry, especially moving forward post-pandemic. I came into the program and started to teach in 2000, but I'm a 3-time grad of Central Michigan University, so I knew about what was happening in the rec department before starting. But just to tell a little bit of a history lesson, it was really kind of 2 majors until 2013. There was a commercial recreation and facility management major, thinking of the for-profit part of our world, people who are running big, large event spaces, multi-purpose arenas, that were doing it as a business, entrepreneurially to make money, was different than what we would call our Community Leisure Services Administration, thinking of things like YMCAs, nonprofits, in your local park and rec districts. Well, in 2013, our advisory board, along with our faculty, kind of got together and said, not sure we're selling the message correctly. Those titles are way too long. Nobody knows what they mean. What if we called it rec and event management? Well, suddenly the industry started to grab on and said, oh, geez, that's really what we want. And then again, we made one more switch right after the pandemic and switched rec and event management to event and rec management. And because the search bar for this generation that's what they're searching is event. They're not searching anything else. And so a little bit of a change of our curricular philosophy has really attracted more students to Central, more students to our major. And as you know, it's just really hard to define because the breadth of our industry is so wide. If I'm talking to a parent and they say, what do you do? And I say, teach people from wedding planning to halftime of the Super Bowl and everything in between. And so we literally give them a sheet of paper that has 16 photos on it and a Sharpie and say to the student, if any of these apply to you, circle them. And if they don't, cross them off. Well, they might circle event planning, corporate events, nonprofit events, and special events, but don't want to be at a community park and rec facility. They don't want to be with a mega church, and they don't want to work in recreation for military. Well, if they've circled 2 out of the 16, they're in the right spot. And so we've just learned some tricks in the trade to try to get people engaged, because this academic credential is what's really opening the door now in today's world. You got to prove that you got the chops, hard skill in the classroom. And then the ultimate for us is the experience, right? We hire not on resumes because you got a degree. We hire on resumes that have a degree, but a tremendous amount of experiences prior to even starting their jobs.
Well, certainly, and that adds up to being able to trust someone on site. Events are up to the moment. If the moment doesn't work, the whole event is for naught. So that experience is important, as is the education. From an educational perspective, what are these? How did this program get its core? Like, what are those? What is that training, and what is that in classroom education that we can get to experience maybe after? But
Sure.
in classroom, what do you teach people to create this foundation of an events professional?
Great question. I think, first of all, we start as an umbrella, as a program or a department. We have 3 individually accredited programs: event and recreation management, outdoor and environmental education, and recreational therapy and rehabilitation. All of those students take the first intro class, which is just introduction to recreation, where we spend a lot of time talking about quality of life, the difference between leisure and play, just to get a perspective of what we do here, whether it's run an event or offer a service to improve quality of life because you're born with a disability or you're enjoying Zion National Park. All of that is related to recreation and play, and understanding that philosophical difference between what did we do in the backyard with no rules and regulations versus what is organized and planned for you is the starting point. But our program walks you through event planning as an intro class. We have a class specifically in risk management. We have one in marketing. We have one in budgeting. We have one in research. We have one in human resources. We have one in dealing with diverse populations. And so instead of having just an administrative class that handles all of those, we have a pretty comprehensive program of 36 credits in seat while you're here at CMU. And then the only 30-week, 30 credit internship program in the United States, meaning 120 credits to graduate from CMU, your last 30 credits, your senior year. Instead of having Tim Otteman in Finch, Tim Otteman, the instructor, Finch is the classroom, you're now at Ford Field in Detroit, Michigan, and Chris Judd is your teacher, and Ford Field is your classroom. And so 65% of our students get offered a job at their internship site, because I get there and Dan's been there for 20 weeks. And suddenly Chris goes, 10 weeks from now, Dan's gone. We got to find a spot for Dan because he's killed it and has proven himself over a 20-week system. So our program is stepwise. We start you and introduce you. We reinforce in the middle. We give you practical application on the end, and then rubber stamp you with this degree and say, hey, you're ready for the industry.
That practical application is so key, and how cool. It's a benefit to both sides, obviously. The student is getting hands-on experience. The organization or the entity is getting intern level labor, but people that are obviously focused towards the career. They're not just picking some random spot that would let them in. You're vouching for them. And then at the end of that year, they have obviously the institutional knowledge, which is what so many of these places are. You probably sent people, Joe Louis Arena, the old hockey arena in Detroit.
For sure.
We needed, I was down there doing an event. We had to build a stage, and we needed to know how far we needed to build out to get from the hockey ice to the stands. Well, they had to bring the forklift in to smash the seats back so that, because it was so old, that the guy with the forklift was the guy with the key to the secret to getting the event done. I'm much more high tech and elegant solutions are finding your students, I'm sure now. What are some of those?
Yeah, I think a good example of that is Dave Jones, who started at Joe Louis Arena as an intern, and he was low on the totem pole, and an old senior guy that had been at Joe Louis forever kind of took him under his wing. And as they moved to LCA, he moved over. He is now the head ice technician and has been there his entire time. Graduated from CMU, never left the Red Wings, and now in charge of the ice and the Zamboni in the new facility.
And he doesn't have a degree in ice technicianing. I'm sure it's all the catch-all of making an event happen.
Exactly right.
And seeing opportunity to explore and to apply expertise. So now I'm sure as his career goes forward, he'll be advising ice arenas and different arenas. Now he knows how to maintain maybe the platform for a sport, or whether it's a field or a court or whatever. He's got expertise there that can only really come from that hands-on experience with events. What are some of the other kind of areas that these grads, I guess let's talk about first that internship, just because I think that's so cool. Where are you sending students off to from Mount Pleasant all the way across Michigan, across the country?
Yeah, everywhere. It is program, in our particular side, the major that is event and recreation management, we have a pre-internship class 2 semesters before their internship where they learn the search parameters. How do you look? What kind of questions are you asking? We've documented every internship site since 1974 and have made contact with those sites. And so they get kind of that search process in 8 weeks, 1 hour a week. And then the semester before, they take another class that's called a professional seminar class where they actually get placed into their internships. And so, Dan, it's a really interesting concept as we think about how we do it is I could say to you, okay, you're next on my internship. And the next one up is wedding planning at Castle Farms in Charlevoix. Phenomenal internship. I've had a lot of interns there. And you say to me, but I don't want to be a wedding planner. And so we say to the student, okay, we're not going to do it that way then. We're going to let you go anywhere you want in the world, but you got to go find it and secure it. And so while we are there as a guiding principle in this last class, RPL 497, they really choose the site they go to. They choose where they go. They choose when they start. They negotiate their compensation. Again, all the way involved with an academic advisor that gets them stem to stern. When you start in our program, I have you from your signing of your major through the completion of your internship, and then we become colleagues and Facebook friends forever. The challenge of getting them to go off the end of this diving board is a little paralyzing at sometimes. Where do I really want to go? Do I want to stay in Michigan? Do I want to get 2 hours away from mom and dad? Do I really want to live in Texas? And so they literally go all over the United States. Not a heck of a lot of them internationally, but more than we've ever had before. And so they are not restricted at all by the borders of the state of Michigan. We then academically supervise them. You have an academic supervisor on campus, along with your site supervisor, a letter of agreement, a memorandum of understanding, a series of goals that you have to accomplish, progress reports monthly, 3 evaluations, and then literally an internship paper at the end that is traditionally 2 to 3 inches thick that illustrates everything possibly that you have done. So it's a very comprehensive process, but it's been super, super successful for us.
That documentation, there must be so much gold in there for event professionals and especially the following concurrent student generations that come through. There must be a nice kind of hand me down of knowledge. Do you have a good, strong alumni network in that way?
Yeah, I was joking with the students the other day. I had them on Monday before they got out of here for a kind of a 2-day Gentle Friday break. And I think, again, this is all a pyramid scheme in reality. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And so while I'm teaching you and you learn something hard skill in my class, the reality is we now know each other. And so I said, I got 4,000 friends on Facebook. 3,800 of them are grads of my program. And so the connection that we have with our alums, whether it's emails or phone calls or texting or site visits or any of those type of things, I'm in contact with our alums almost more than I'm in contact with our current students, trying to make sure the doors are open for internships and job placement. Because that's my unwritten contract with the student, their parents, their guardians, is at the end of this, you're going to be able to be employable. And so if I don't keep those doors open with our alums, I'm not doing my job.
Which certainly. So before it was Dr. Tim, there was Tim, the event producer manager. This program, did you go through Central, you said, for undergrad? Were you a product of this program or was this something you recognized and you knew you wanted to grow into?
It's kind of a fun story. Mount Pleasant isn't the biggest place in the world. We have about 28,000 people in the city of Mount Pleasant and another, 13 or 14,000 undergrads at any given time. But born and raised right here in Mount Pleasant, have 3 degrees. I have a journalism degree with a concentration in public relations and an advertising minor. I was the first graduate as a Master of Arts from our sport administration program in 1991. And then my doctoral degree is in higher education here in 2008. But in the late 1990s, I was working with Special Olympics. I was the director of sports and training for Michigan Special Olympics that's based right here on our campus. And 2 of my volunteers, 2 of my venue directors, one was the chair of the department I'm the chair of now, and one was the chair of the physical education department. And they both independently came to me and said, hey, we love what you're doing with Special Olympics. Would you mind teaching a class? And I said, I don't know how to teach a class. I've never had a teaching class in my life. And they go, you don't have to know how to teach. You're teaching right now. And so that was kind of an eye opening, maybe I found my big boy job. And so I started teaching in both departments. And then in 2005, chose to come to the RPL department full time as I finished my terminal degree, then got onto a track to become a tenured professor and all those kind of good things. So, I wasn't trained in the RPL department, but I was trained in sport management. And man, I use my public relations advertising stuff almost nonstop. But my practical experience with running events in our community and running events with Special Olympics really is what I took into the classroom at the start was let me teach you what I've learned in the real world. Yeah, I'm going to give you a little theory, but the theory is just on paper. Let's talk about how do we have to push the seats in Joe Louis to make sure we can fit the ice in, because that's something that's not in a textbook.
Excellent, excellent. That network as well. I know you're now a member of the International Events and Festivals Association. I might have pronounced that wrong, but
That's
how is that network, that professional network, how are you now contributing to the greater professional organization?
a great question. We got involved kind of by just seeing it, just like everybody else, right? If you don't know the answer, Google it. And it popped up in my feed. The International Festival and Association, and Events Association, IFEA, has a annual award program called the Pinnacles. And there's probably 75 different awards you can apply to be recognized internationally, like best parade, best costume, best social media campaign, best advertising poster, best merch, whatever it may have been. And there are categories for academic. So there's a best associate's degree, best bachelor's degree, master's, onward. So in 2019, I decided to complete the application. It was 303 pages long, trying to tell what we did here at CMU, and we won.
Nice.
And so in 2019, we were identified as the best event management bachelor's program by IFEA. We have now won it 6 consecutive years. So working on the application as we speak now, but as a result of that and going to the convention, presenting at the convention last semester with the CEO of the National Cherry Festival about our internship program, led me to an invitation by IFEA to join their foundation board, which is really the fundraising arm of IFEA that creates monies for education, scholarships for students to come to the convention, a new student summit on the front end. How are we educating the future professionals? And so it just was a natural fit for me to join the board, but also make sure that I could tell the story of, I guess, the perspective of what it's like to be at an educational institution. What challenges and hurdles do we have? But what gateways have we created to really start to funnel into the industry, into each of our partners within IFEA, students who are ready to go for internships or graduating professionals ready to look for jobs in our industry.
That's creating this through line. It's really a cool story that, you can help shape a career from the inkling of an interest all the way through these. So what I've found with Event Explorer and interviewing all these people, that hopefully we have more and more people that are educated through a program and they know what they're getting into. But I found that a lot of people, they don't. They fall into the industry by a need, that there is either they find something to celebrate. There's a tradition that needs to be amplified. There are a need for kind of coalescing of culture. And that's this big thing, right? Is festivals creating culture. How does that extend into the educational realm? Have you had these kind of sociology discussions, or these, I know there's American studies, there's history studies. How does that kind of branch out into the broader university? Do events have a place there?
Yeah, I really think what you've hit on is what we think of as placemaking, that you have the ability to create a space in your community, at your college, with your festival that creates a legacy of involvement. We just celebrated last Saturday 75 years of this building that I teach in. And so we did a life-size timeline that was 100 foot long, 130 photos that told the story from 1950 forward. We did a virtual interpretive trail at different spots in our building where we showed a picture from the 50s, a picture from the 2020s, and then created a QR code and a 90-second video telling the story from that place. I'm going to work on a story with IFEA about how do you celebrate milestones at your festival or at your event. And so, yeah, I think making a place, connecting to the culture, connecting to the vibe of a community is 100% what we do. Lori Irwin, who teaches in our program, says it best. Our job is to improve the quality of life of members of communities, however we get there. And there's a million ways to do it. But if that's the vision always, if that's the thing we keep in front of us, then I think we're in a great spot. If we start to miss that and we just get wrapped up in the logistics of the minutia of running the event, sometimes I think we miss, man, here's what we were trying to do. We got caught into a mess here. Let's refocus and go, have we helped our community?
That's it. Well, I mean, if that's the end goal, what better effort can you make or a goal can you have to achieve with that? Amazing. You mentioned, and I just am struck by it. I'm a tech nerd, and you mentioned the integration of technology into the on-campus activation that you did recently. How has the evolution of technology? We're using AI in our daily jobs now. How A, has technology evolved your process, and B, how do you give students experience with technology?
What a great question, because man, we're in the middle of it, right? I think the thing that really forced us to grab technology more than anything else in our industry academically was the pandemic. We do everything as a hands-on program, in face-to-face, in-seat classes. Everything has a tangible item at the end. We're in the community, we're doing it. In our risk management class, we're talking about risk management plans and we learn how to create them, but you're going to partner then with an organization and help them create theirs or improve theirs. So suddenly the pandemic hits and we're not in classrooms. And how do we deliver the content? Man, our library and our instructional support people on campus scrambled around and we were videotaping and putting things into a Blackboard shell and using Lightboard where we could write backwards on a screen, but it could be projected with mirrors. So we really learned quickly how to do that. And then Zoom and WebEx and Teams meetings all happened. Not that those probably didn't exist corporately, but they didn't exist academically. And then online classes started to ramp up. So we learned, I think, in our industry, our students really like being here. They like being together. They like learning hands-on. Our online program served a great purpose for that, but I think they wanted to come back. And so we've seen that happen, but we're using everything, at least trying everything to see what works. Chat GPT is a great example. AI is a great example. Virtual learning, hybrid learning, taping lectures, putting them into electronic store or databases where students can access them 24 hours a day. I think we've adapted to all those slowly but surely. I would say academically, we probably are slower than corporate America, but I also think because we're a little slower, at times we're a little more thoughtful and we don't jump in first. We figure out what works and then jump in and use the best of that. But I think we are making those adjustments on the fly, just like the rest of our industry.
Speaking of that, or speaking of particularly the education industry, I have a sense that you wouldn't mind a little competition, that more programs wouldn't hurt, to be able to collaborate with more. I just think we just need more people with official training. It gives a certain respect to the industry too. Have you seen the uprise of any other kind of programs like yours recently that you're collaborating with?
Yeah, there are some really good ones out there. And again, I think you meet them at places like IFEA. High Point University, for example, is a smaller university than CMU, but they do a phenomenal job. Pai Che in South Korea at a master's and doctoral level do a phenomenal job. We don't have a lot of direct competition in the state of Michigan, but it's weird how they're combined. We always think of it like this, as we combine majors and minors. So if you said to me, hey, I want to be a wedding planner, my initial blush would be, then you need to get a hospitality minor. What event doesn't have food, beverage, and lodging? So let's get something that helps you. But if you say to me, hey, I want to run my own entrepreneur opportunity and recreation, I want to create a jump station in my community for youth, then maybe get an entrepreneurship minor, get a marketing minor, get a management minor. And so I think those complementary programs like hospitality do exist at other programs around us, the Michigan States, the Grand Valleys, the Saginaw Valleys, and then our competitors within the MAC all have little facets of it. but not quite as completely as we do it.
And then from the outside in, that's what my last kind of thought here is about, if I am a festival organization, there's some great passionate labor that I can
For sure.
access probably through my universities. A university is going to be guarded about who they partner with and making sure the student gets the best benefit. How can a festival organization approach a university and set up a program like you have with all the different organizations?
Sure. I think you reach right out to the home program where you think there might be a fit. We have a person that is in charge of all of our field work opportunities, practicums, field work, our internship, along with our Disney college program. We actually send students to Disney in 3 different ways. CMU students who are taking CMU credit go for a semester. Students from other universities taking CMU credit, going for a semester, or international students that may come for a whole year. We have about 160 international students in any given year from about 11 different countries taking CMU credit at Disney to get the hands-on experience. Who doesn't want Disney on their resume
Sure.
if you're a good person? So there's that part of it. So you can reach out to department chairs that way. And that's really how we do it. We have a conversation with whoever comes up to us. Can you take 30 weeks or 15 weeks? Do you have 40 hours a week worth of work? Or is this really a practicum for our event management minors that got to help and execute an event for an 80-hour window? Or do you just need volunteer help? All of our students have to have 500 hours of experience before they can go on their internship. So there's almost no experience that we can't see value in. But yeah, we vetted on our end. Is this going to be supervised? Is it going to be the right skill? We don't want them shuffling papers for 8 hours sitting on a desk. We want them to be able to kind of see the event and feel the event and experience the event. But starting with the department chair in most departments is where I would lead you. And then they'll walk you down the path or get you in the place with the right faculty members to fit the experience with the student.
Amazing.
I don't know that there's a class that I ever start with that doesn't have announcements about volunteer opportunities, internship opportunities, or jobs.
And this is, the ones that you're suggesting are pretty much all have fun that comes with them. I'm sure there's going to be hard work, but these are appealing to the 21-year-old mind. Yeah. I can
For
go
sure.
work at this great concert venue or at this summer festival or at this big sporting arena. Yeah, I'm in. So, how
Exactly.
appealing to be able to offer those opportunities. And it's kind of nice that it's not just working in a lab somewhere. You're actually boots on the ground at a place that's entertaining and changing lives in that way.
For
Just
sure.
a couple quick questions before we go.
Yeah.
Just personally, these are kind of like a rapid fire. Favorite moment of a festival that you worked on?
Oh
You got-
man,
I know there's many.
that's a tough one. I have been in some really cool spots, and I don't know how familiar you are with the play Hamilton. I've been in a lot of rooms where it happened.
Mm.
And so I say that from that of, in the play, they're talking about how the heck did we figure out our government that ended up in Washington, D.C. and not in New York, and federally funded government versus state funded government. And, Thomas Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton in a room, and they came out of the room and solved the problems. I've been in a lot of cool rooms like that. So I don't know that I have an event moment,
Mm.
but I have been awestruck being, for example, in the Rainbow Room in New York City, 65th floor of 30 Rockefeller Center, that one of my students is now the event director. And it's the room where Frank Sinatra played, where Sammy Davis Jr. played, where Tony Bennett celebrated his 90th birthday, where Bob Hope's birthday was. And you look around and go, man, the people that have been in this room before me, it's pretty cool. I even get to walk in the room. So because I'm so connected to our alums and our current students, we do get a chance to go into some pretty cool spaces.
Awesome. Just like a laundry list, top 5 or top 3 to 5 skills you think an event professional should have.
Passion for one. You got to love what you do. Do I love my job every day? No, but I love my job. Do I love my faculty every day? I like them every day, but I'm not sure I love them every day. So you got to realize that passion comes with, it's called work. It's not called play, but it doesn't mean they can't interact at times. I think ability to adjust on the fly too is number 2. You got to be mobile. You got to be adjustable. And I think especially in today's world, that's super important. And then the other one that I always sell is we're the people that cross T's and dot I's. That's why we get hired. And so if you don't have an attention to detail, probably the wrong industry for you. And those are hard skills that we reinforce in all of our classes, but most of our students come with them. If you look around our room and say, okay, how many of you are the anal retentive one in your group? That's the detail oriented one. Everybody raises. If you go to a chemistry lab, I'm not sure that's the case. And so I do think the hard skills are important, but most of them come with those.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I not knowing of programs like this, I always reach out to theater departments for stage managers because I know stage
Sure.
managers are the people that can't let the ball drop. Yeah, there's all these creative people, and stage managers are creative, but they're the managers that make sure that the show must go on, the show happens.
Yeah.
One more fun question. Is there a festival that you haven't been to that you want to go to and you're making plans to?
I got a couple bucket list things I want to do. I've been to Augusta National for the Masters, and it's the most pristine event in the world. I've been 3 times for practice rounds, and I will tell you this. So I don't know, let's say you're there for a 12-hour day because you don't want to leave. I've been on property for 36 hours and have not found a weed. Not weed that we smoke, a weed growing from the
Sure.
ground. So that event is phenomenal. I'd like to get behind the scenes of that. I'd like to talk to those kind of people, to see what they do, how they manage that number of people, how they keep the pricing down, how do they get that many people to purchase and ship merch. It's just an amazing place. I'm an avid golfer, so there's a couple golf courses I want to go see. One of the trips I made with my nephews and my brother was a trip to Scotland to play, and we got a chance to play. And had 6 rounds in Scotland, had the same caddy for 4 of the 6 rounds, and built a relationship. Went back 3 years later in doing some investigations for some study abroad, and called my caddy back 3 years later. And the caddy met me for lunch at St. Andrews, took me into the caddy shack and introduced me around. And then we went, had a couple pints, some fish and chips, but that's what I'm talking about. That's the relationship. I want to go back for a summer and be a caddy just so I can tell the story of how does that impact tourism? Because it changed my life in terms of my experience in Scotland as a golfer was extremely magnified by the time that I spent with Jimmy White. And then 3 years later, Jimmy would meet me for lunch and do what he did. That's our industry. And if we're not doing it like that, we're doing something.
Yeah, from the macro to the micro, from 100,000 people to one person's experience is so important and vital. And that's where this training comes in, right? It's personal relationships and it's accountability for the masses. Tim, thanks so much for sharing your story today and your vision for what the industry can become. From the classroom to the community, it's clear that you've helped shape a generation of event leaders who do more than execute. They're going to inspire everyone around them and provide leadership in events and organizations that they're calling out for that. So I think that you are, safeguarding this industry with your graduates in such a great way. So grateful for your time and your continued work with the association and your students. So I look forward to interviewing some of your students on Event Explorer, I think, and then seeing what they do next. So thanks for being part of it today.
I appreciate the offer, and it's been great to spend some time with you. Fire up chips.
Excellent. Thanks, Tim. Fire up chips. Big thanks again to Dr. Tim Otteman for joining us and for the work he's doing to prepare the next generation of event professionals. If you're part of this industry, whether a producer, festival founder, brand strategist, or venue operator, I hope this conversation reminds you of how important education is to the sustainability and growth of our field. And if you're a student or just getting started, this is your sign. Seek out programs like CMU's, ask questions, get experience, and find mentors who believe in this work. There's a space for you in this industry. Now, we'll be sharing more stories from rising students and seasoned veterans alike in future episodes. So don't forget to follow Event Explorer wherever you get your podcasts. And if you've got a story or a festival you think we should feature, shoot me a message at daniel@eventexp.org. All right, until next time, keep creating, keep connecting, and happy exploring.